I'm Megan Skidmore. For 2.5 years, I have been talking about evolving faith journeys. I started to tire of the heaviness of this focus. I had the clear message come through. It is time for Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast to evolve into Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast. With the same vulnerability and unapologetic authenticity, I will be focusing on the joy in this journey, the life and the living that comes on the other side of maybe, on the other side of what's possible. I want to talk about claiming spiritual sovereignty and becoming your own captain of your vessel. Let's celebrate releasing what no longer aligns for you and connecting with your higher power and honor expanding your energy field to make room for all things new. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. I am super thrilled for today's episode for the chat that I get to have today with my friend Mandy Giles. We circulate in many different circles, not to use the same word essentially, but our paths have crossed more than once, and we've kind of been connecting the dots. We both are parents of queer kiddos, and so we both attend things like the Free Mom Hugs conference earlier this year, and in other areas. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to share your story and your insights and the beautiful mission that you have created or stepped up to, however you determine or call it. And I'll let you put the words to that. Anyway, Mandy, please take a moment and introduce yourselves to our listeners, your background, upbringing, all the things, your profession and your current work. We'd love to hear about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is a real treat. Pardon. So I'm Mandy. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Houston with my husband, Neil. We have 3 kids. Indigo and Mars are both 23. They are twins, and they both live in Austin. Kind of living the young person dream there. Our son Henry is 18, and he will be starting college in the fall, just in a couple weeks as of this recording. So Indigo and Mars are both transgender. Indigo came out to us as non-binary when they were in about, I guess, 9th grade. Sorry. And Mars came out to us as non-binary when they were a freshman in college. So for me, I grew up in Houston. I went away to college in North Carolina and then came back to Houston. I couldn't stay away from the big city. And then I started a career in nonprofit fundraising.
Okay.
And then I took several years off to be with my kids and stay home with them, and then went back to work in that same profession in nonprofit development. And about that same time that I went back to work was when Indigo came out to us. And it was really hard for me at first because I grew up in a relatively conservative household and community, both kind of, I guess, culturally and in a religious sense. I grew up in an Episcopal household, and although I guess of all the denominations, maybe that is of the more progressive, but our congregation was not.
Okay.
And so
Every congregation is not created the same.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what faith background. Yeah.
Yeah. And so not even exposure, but any talking about LGBTQ people was kind of in a negative sense, or jokes are being made fun of, or we just didn't talk about that kind of stuff at all. And so when, as I said, like I had one in my home, it was hard. And also I just had no knowledge of gender diversity. Indigo was the first transgender person I'd met that I knew of. Um, so I had a lot of fear, and doubt and what felt like grief. Um, but here's the good news. I got support from lots of different organizations. I educated myself, and over the years, I've really built up a supportive network of other parents of transgender kids, as well as transgender adults, advocates, and I guess kind of subject matter experts. So after Indigo came out to us and we as a family were out more publicly, other parents of trans kids began contacting me for support. At first it was friends, and then it was friends of friends, and I started getting connected to people all over the country. Just people really wanted to connect and share their stories and kind of compare and share resources. And so I learned that parents were really hungry for that connection and that support and that learning. And so that was kind of like noodling around in my head and like, how can I serve these parents on a larger scale in some way? And so at the time I was working for a Christian nonprofit, and while the employees were kind of all over the spectrum of, I don't know, I guess ideology maybe of, conservative, progressive, however you would term that. But our donors were very conservative, and that was in my department. And so I was writing grant proposals to funders that didn't align with my values at all. Like it didn't maybe didn't include or include, that's an understatement. Had rejected any kind of leadership or clergy or spiritual leaders who were LGBTQ, sometimes even women. And sometimes they even had it like in their statement of faith that homosexuality was a sin, or thinking you were a different gender was a sin and against God. And I thought, like, this doesn't feel very good because this is not my life. So um I knew I needed to do something different that did align with my values, and uh, that would also allow me to use some skills and talents that I wasn't using in that particular position. So I quit that job in like the spring of 2020. Literally took a leap of faith. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew it was going to be educating and advocating in some way for trans kids. Um, and then, like a week later, the pandemic hit, um, which actually I think turned out to be
Wow.
a good thing because it gave me a lot of time to do market research and really um, to kind of refine my messaging and my audience and really figure out where I, as a cisgender straight person, a mom, fit into kind of this ecosystem of um, education and advocacy. And I just got some really, really good advice during that time. And so then in 2021, I just happened to be in Austin during that year's Texas legislative session when the first anti-trans bill came up. That year was all about sports, and it was being heard in a Senate committee. And I
This was
felt
2020,
2021
2021.
was
Okay.
when, because in Texas legislative sessions are every other year, and they're
Okay.
in
Okay.
odd years. So I because, I thought like, oh, I said I was going to do this work, so I guess I better go testify. I knew nothing about that. But I got some good advice from some advocacy organizations, and I was terrified. One, I just have logistical anxiety, so like wondering like, where is the Capitol? How do I find the room? Where's the
Uh,
bathroom? Where do I park? Where do I put my purse? But then also telling my story as my very vulnerable and personal story as just a mom of trans kids and telling these lawmakers how the proposed bill would affect families like mine. It was terrifying, and then it was exhilarating, and I loved it. Uh, and that whole experience showed me a different side of what it means to support your kids and advocate for them. And I knew that just needed to be a part of my work. So in 2022, I launched Parents of Trans Youth, which is a social impact business that provides learning, support, and community to parents and caregivers of transgender, nonbinary, and gender diverse kids and young adults. We focus on Texas because that's where I live, and there's a lot going on in Texas. So I also do a lot of local and state advocacy, but we serve families all over the country. So that's what I'm doing now.
Love that. Wow, what a journey. So I didn't catch, what was your degree in
Ah,
college?
good question. Uh, Psychology and public policy. Those are my two majors, and then
Okay.
I minored in women's studies. And I actually kind of I started in public policy because that's where my college had their journalism area, and that just didn't pan out. Um, but I was, a couple classes away from completing the major, so I was like, all right, whatever. And I'm never going to use this. And now it turns out that I use it every day.
That
So I
is
wish I'd paid more attention
amazing.
in those classes.
Your it sounds like a double major.
Yes.
Your double major and your minor could not have been more tailor-made
Yeah.
for your life's purpose
Yeah.
that you have clearly just dove in, jumped in feet first. Um, I was curious to learn a little bit more. You said you grew up in a household of, well, Episcopalian. Um, and although in general, that particular faith and their tenets are a little bit more open, your particular congregation was not. What would you say your home life or structure was like? Because just because a family attends a certain or aligns with a certain religion, right? The way that is interpreted or the things that are emphasized in the home growing up can vary a lot. And I truly believe that also has an plays a role in who we become and how we navigate then, once we leave that home, how we navigate the things in life that will be part of our path, that will come and we intersect with, and we are then invited to decide what we want to do with perhaps new information or new insight. Or I like to say, when I see things that I didn't previously see. So how would you describe your kind of
Ah,
that home environment, and did it play a
sure.
role?
That's such an interesting question because s- so when you hear kind of how it was in my home, it did influence how I move about in the world now, but maybe not in the way that you think it might be.
There's
Um,
well, yeah, there's no wrong or right. It's just
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah,
information. It's so interesting, and I
yeah,
and I love to hear people's stories.
yeah. So let's see. We as a family went to church every Sunday, and I participated in youth group. Um, And I went to a series of, summer camps, and most of the no, I guess all of them had, like, a Christian bent. Actually, I went one summer to the camp that was, destroyed in the recent floods, in Texas, and so that holds heartbreaking and yet complicated feelings for me.
Sure.
Uh, and the camp that I like the last one that I went to in, like, the series of camps was I guess I knew now, like, more of a, I may not be using this word correctly, but like a fundamentalist, bent to the camp.
Really?
Um, and I think I still I carried that with me and kind of what I learned from my parents. well, let me back up. I think that what I learned at that camp and kind of my parents' attitude was more of, hmm, it was definitely more of like us and them. Um, we're in and everybody else is out, whether that's just, well, heaven, or, if you don't believe this, then you're not going to get the good stuff, or we're doing the right thing and everybody else is doing the wrong thing. A lot of judgment, I think, and I probably internalized that too. Like, okay, this is how I'm supposed to be, and I better not deviate from that path. And uh, and I think some of the religion probably was, I don't know, somewhat performative, I guess, in that, or at least now looking back,
Yeah,
there
it's a common
wasn't a,
thing.
yeah, not a lot of, say, serving others, or I don't know, volunteering, or helping other people or donating or anything like that. And just thinking about how different my life is now, and how that is my life, is serving others, and totally deviating from the path that I thought I was going to be on, and that my parents thought I was going to be on. And I just feel like my true self now, more than I ever have. And I don't
Mm.
feel like I have to fit in a box anymore.
Every first Friday of the month, I offer a free coaching hour. Anyone is welcome to join, and you may leave your camera off and change your name if you would like to remain anonymous. This is an opportunity to get introduced to my style of holistic coaching and gain real skills, insight relevant to you, and fresh perspective on life circumstances. For those attending, there will be opportunities for a complimentary one-off energy alignment session. Register at the link in the show notes. Gosh, so many questions. I'm curious to know then what that upbringing, what role it played when your first kiddo came out and then later, and if that was hard, or you mentioned the word grief, and I relate to that. I don't think people realize that when you have known a person in a certain way, there's expectations that come with that. And so there are some deaths that happen of sorts. I use that word obviously poetically, but sometimes physical death isn't the only death that we experience. There's emotional, mental, spiritual. There's death of expectations. And sometimes with that comes hopes and dreams. So if you can share a little bit about that aspect. And then you also mentioned your now path. You used the word deviated. I'm going to say aligned with
Uh,
your true purpose, right? But you said it's definitely different than what even you expected, and your parents, you said. I didn't catch if you have siblings or not, but it's clearly different than what your family and yourself expected. How have they navigated that? What is that experience? If you can speak to those two things, I would love to hear your
yeah, sure.
experience.
Um, yeah. Okay. So, okay, what were the questions again?
Just
So the first,
your
okay,
response.
okay,
How
my
do you,
response.
your
Yes.
your religious upbringing,
Okay.
how that um influenced or maybe played a role in when you first responded to when your kiddo came out, and it brought in some doubts. You said it brought in grief. Well, I'm assuming that's what you meant. I don't want to assume, but you used those words
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
describe part of your journey earlier
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I think, well, by that point, by the time the first kiddo came out to us, my, I guess my world view had expanded beyond what I saw at home,
Okay.
going to college and meeting lots of different kinds of people, and uh, different ideas, and just um, especially women's studies for sure kind of expanded a lot of my ideas. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, I've been oppressed. Like maybe it's okay to be angry, or whatever, the case may be. And even though I still felt tied, well, I still have the foundation of Christianity in my life. I experienced it, I think, in a different way, and it took a while to, I guess, find my footing and find that, I guess I should say, religious home, um, and that came along actually when I met my husband. Kind of long story, but we met blind date through a blind date, and we had very low expectations of each other, so it worked out great. Part of our dating was going to church. He had started going to church with his mom, and he was kind of having this spiritual awakening in a way. And so I started going with him, and the church that we were going to and that we still go to today after, oh gosh, how long has it been? 26 years, 27 years, um, is definitely more progressive. So I learned to experience what Christianity could be, in a more expansive way than I had experienced it before. By the time our kiddo came out, I think I felt like I was much more open-minded than the way I was raised, and when it's your kid, it's different. You can be out there waving pride flags all over the place and say, "Yes, I believe in this," and it's just different when it's your kid.
I
So
appreciate you being just forthcoming about that. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, and I hear that all the time with the parents I work with. They're like, "Yeah, I was go to the pride parades, and I'm on the DEI committee of da 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 da," and then it's like, "Oh my gosh, my kid came out as trans," and I was like, "What?" And, it's just 'cause gender is not maybe something you expect to change in your kid, and you're talking about expectations. Um And I think that was probably the most important thing that I learned, through the support network that I built up, was that what I was feeling as grief or loss was the loss of my expectations for my kids, for both of them, really. Like, you just think your kid is gonna be one gender forever, and then that changes, and you're like, "What?" Or they're gonna have the same name forever. That's a weird expectation to change. Or they're going to be this way or have this kind of romantic partner. Or um and I think, as all parents have expectations for their kids, and uh, as much as we would like our kids to do things that we tell them to do or hope that they would do, they don't, and not all the time, definitely. And so in a way, this is just one of those things, but it's kind of a big thing that's core to their identity. Um, it was definitely hard at first, and, I remember there would be nights where my husband and I would be kind of clutching each other and being like, "Is this real? Is this a real thing?" And like, "Well, we just gotta keep on keeping on." And we learned that whatever was in front of us was the current reality. And we learned that might change at some point, but this is how our kid is. And so we need to support them to the best of our ability. Um, so, and I think this happens with a lot of parents, to just kind of have to muddle through until you learn more and learn more about your kid and really see your kid for who they are. And then you're like, oh, okay. So this is maybe what they might need to feel supported and loved and safe and
Mhm,
affirmed from us.
mhm, mhm.
And I think that is key.
I love, love, love that you said, as you would have conversations with your husband, we just learn to, I'll say the word deal with, but I just mean, look at what is going on right now. right now. And that's what we're going to address. That's what we're going to try to figure out, because you knew, like you said, you learned that it might evolve. And, what I've learned is gender is a social construct, right? People mix that up with what a person's genitals are
Yeah.
at birth, which
Hmm.
is really just their sex, what is traditionally called their sex. But because we know there are individuals who are born with some combination of both, it's as common as, number of redheads we see around us in our lives, right? It's just not as talked about. And, well, redheads, it's obvious. You can see their hair on top of their head, right?
Hmm.
Gender, not, or excuse me, sex, not so obvious, or intersex um, situations. So I love that you just decided, let's just focus on the here and the now. I think when we are taught something and we believe it to be absolute, because it's the way it's taught, then when part of our experience is we're we're invited, it's really kind of an invitation. We can step into whatever is different than what we were taught and choose to navigate those sometimes really, really hard emotions and bring into question our own beliefs up to that point, and the possibility that maybe we were incorrect in our understanding, or we didn't, I like to say, we didn't have all of the information, all of the understanding, right?
Yeah. And I think that takes a degree of humility
It does.
to 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 really look at the way you have been taught to look at the world, or the things you other things you've been taught, and think like, okay, I could be wrong,
Mhm.
or um, I could look at things a different way, and that's hard. That is humbling.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I always say, like, when you start to learn about gender and sex and gender expression, it kind of blows your world up, because you think like, if that's different, if there are more than two genders, what else is different in my world, and what else have I been taught? And it kind of freaks you out, and
Mhm.
so it takes that humility and some courage to, like I said, just keep plodding on and be like, well, okay, we've got to deal with the here and now.
Yeah.
And so what's next? And we just got to keep going.
I don't know about you in your work, in your circles. I have found it so important to increase awareness of the emotions that are bubbling up
Mm,
um, when we are in these situations, in these eh, navigating things that we didn't know we were going to, because it's such a different energy to act from a place of fear than to act from a place of curiosity, of interest. And like you said, it does require some humility, uh, being teachable, being willing to acknowledge, whether it's just within yourself or out loud verbally to your kid, maybe to your spouse, to family members, whatever. I don't know everything. I'm learning. I remember that moment when I realized, wow, I thought I knew a lot of things, and I'm learning there's so much more that I don't know than I do know. I have a lot more questions than I do answers. And, that's a good place to be. I actually thrive on, I'm not sure, on, I lean into uncertainty. It's such a healthier place. It's a more malleable, transformative, expansive space to live from. And so then when things pop up that you weren't expecting, your whole world doesn't come crashing down. It's like, oh, okay, let's learn more.
mhm.
Let's find out more. Um, so just really quickly, we don't need to like focus on this, but so how did they do with all of this expansiveness or this change, this
Yeah,
transformation?
good question. It took a while for us to, as a family, to be ready to tell my family. And I have
Yeah.
one brother. And um, really, the kids, let's see, I guess by the time we told my parents, Indigo had been out as
Mhm.
non-binary, maybe 2 years, maybe a year, somewhere around there, and was going by a different name and different pronouns. And then, their twin, Mars, I think at that point was, identifying as not straight, as queer. And so it got to the point where, like, Indigo was out to, like, the whole world except my parents, and we live in the same city. Um, they're sort of on Facebook, but not real. And it was very strange, and so we had to be very, very careful. Um, if we shared pictures of our kids and how we referred to them, and it was right before Thanksgiving one year, and maybe it was their junior year or something. I was like, you know what? It may be time that we need to tell them because I and up to this point, I had had many conversations with Indigo, and I still do with both kids of who is it okay to tell? Who are you out to? What can I say? And like, are you ready to tell Kaki and Pappy? No, not yet. And I said, well, you know what? They're going to be over here for Thanksgiving, and it's going to feel um like I'm not respecting you or validating who you are if I
Yeah.
can't use your your name, your new name.
Mhm. So
And
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, we and I know that some families have this kind of conversation, and then there's many different ways to have this kind of conversation of when you tell extended family. And we as a family had to come to the point that we said, okay, we're going to tell them and we have to be ready. It may, it may be that they freak out. It may be that they don't talk to us for a while. It may be that they don't come to Thanksgiving. We don't know. And so my husband and I went with Indigo to talk to my parents before, the day before. It was actually funny. We said, well, we have something to tell you. And when we got there, my mom was like, oh, we thought you were pregnant. I was like, oh my gosh, no. Do you know how old I am? And then, do you remember when you helped me after my hysterectomy? But, anyway, and so actually that was probably better news, and they actually took it really well. It was kind of funny because my mom said, "Oh, I know all about that." "Oh, okay," and then my brain part of me was going, "Okay, I wonder where she's getting her information, probably from Fox News." Um, and then, and I was thinking, "Okay, I need to put together some websites for," and my dad, mm, he said, "Are you okay?" Like, to Indigo, or "Have you ever been bullied because of this? I wanna make sure you're okay." And that I
So
did not expect.
thoughtful.
Yeah, I
That
did
is
not
so
expect that
cool.
reaction, that he would even think that, like, be aware enough. So that was really cool. And then, of course, the next day, my mom was called and was like, What is this again?" Um, so they're both, I would say they're respectful of my kids and our support of them. They don't really understand it. They use the new names for my kids. Um, they're working on the pronouns, and I understand that they them
Yeah.
pronouns are very hard for older people or for
Yeah.
anybody really. Uh,
But kudos to them for
yeah,
trying,
they're
because I think at the end of the day, that's really all that matters
yeah,
to our
yeah,
kids and in their
yeah.
case, grandkids. Really.
Definitely.
that
Yeah,
they're
definitely
trying.
when they're trying. And, well, the trying didn't quite happen for a long time. And so when they
Fair
do
enough.
say they in a conversation, I'm like, "I heard you say they. Good job, good job. I heard that." Um,
Good.
so yeah, and then my brother was fine with it. I think maybe he didn't tell his kids for a while. And that kind of stung a little bit. But that's what you need to use their names. Because I mean, this is their name. So now we're all pretty cool. My parents don't understand what I do, um, at all. I'm not sure they're interested. Uh, but I try to connect on a level, that they can understand, like, a business level with my dad, or my mom majored in public speaking, and so I try to talk about that with her, and it still doesn't quite connect, which is a little sad that I can't really share those things with them, but I have other people I can share.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of things that we get to adjust our expectations of. And one thing I've noticed, and I love you use the word and a lot. That's become a favorite word of mine. I think if we introduced and more often into our conversations, into our critical thinking, into when we learn, oh, I can differentiate myself from my family of origin, my faith or religion of origin, or for some people, you know, politics, their political party becomes a family identity, or whoever they're maybe they connect with. Uh, we can differentiate, right? One thing I have actively pursued is creating a space that is free of us versus them. That's why I interview people from all faith backgrounds, no matter where they fall in what that practice looks like. So maybe some are still involved or connected to their faith of origin. They attend fairly regularly. Maybe some attend only Easter and Christmas. And then maybe some just, it doesn't feel aligned for them. They lean more towards spirituality and those practices, but all of it is welcome. It's, for me, it's always, okay, I've purposely chosen which beliefs, tenets, whatever that I was raised with still align. And that's a beautiful thing. There's nothing more empowering than re-examining what you were taught and then purposely re-choosing something and then releasing that which doesn't align for you any longer. And, what else is there that maybe I wasn't taught or that wasn't brought to my awareness? And not to criticize those who came before me, or in your case, you. Um, I truly believe people do the best that they know until they understand better. And then the invitation, unspoken or not, is to do better when you know better, just like Maya Angelou said. So I caught that you said going to college and then through those years, you kind of already were evolving in your understanding of your faith and your religious beliefs, we'll say. And then that's evolved even more to present day. My favorite question to ask is, as you used the term, I think you said my spiritual home, my home of where my faith is. And that's so beautiful. As you have purposely cultivated that space for yourself, share with us the joy and the life and the living that has come for you as you have. Sometimes it can be really scary to step into those spaces of the unknown or that are different from what our people or our communities that we grew up with are in or are practicing or are doing. Um, I have found so much joy in taking the reins of my journey. And so I love to hear from others the joys that they have found, the moments of
Mhm.
bliss, even
Yeah,
as you have taken that into your own hands, so to speak.
yeah. That is a good question. Okay, so I'm thinking that this is kind of on three different fronts.
Okay.
And if I keep thinking, there may be more. Um, if I think about it in terms of my, I guess, religious home, my church that I attend, I mean, my husband and I have been going there for so long. The it's really a huge part of our relationship. It's woven into the fabric of our family. Of our We were married there. Our kids were baptized there. We still go there. The kids have kind of been in and out, and they sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't, but it's always there, and it is so comforting to know that that touchstone is always there. Um, and the and sometimes people and our friends come and go maybe, but there are several that are still there and have been there as long as we have, and um, it's been really cool to see in that particular uh, parish that it's grown. I think
Mhm.
in the different leadership that's been there through the years since we've been there, um, to still align more with what I'm experiencing in my work life now. Of now the church actively celebrating and
Oh.
putting in position of leadership LGBTQ folks, which has been
Uh-huh.
really, really cool to see. And let's see, now I lost what the other points. Oh, the another place where I find joy and almost like a spirituality, or and that bliss you were talking about
Uh-huh.
is in in the LGBTQ community and in
Oh.
the transgender community in particular, and that has been an absolute gift.
Uh-huh.
Me not being a card carrying member of the LGBTQ community, um, although my friends joke and they're like, "We need to just give you your card right now." I'm like, "No, don't give it to me. Don't give it to me. I don't want to take up space." Um, that they have shown me what community really is and what caring for other people and looking out for other people really is, and what chosen family is, and what literally loving your neighbor is. Um, and it's been absolutely beautiful. And thinking, like, are any of my communities like this? Were any of the communities that I was a part of growing up like this? And I don't know, but I feel honored and privileged to even, like, be a part of that group, even however adjacent that is. And I'm drawn to the joy and the freedom that community experiences, that people experience, and that has been a real absolute gift in the work that I do. And then I think the third part is finding joy in being who I am, finding who that is, and I feel more like myself than I ever have. I think for sure in growing up and like in high school, and then when I came back to Houston and then like working in certain environments, I just felt like I had to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to talk a certain way. And then once I kind of left that behind and was like, you know what, well, for one thing, like I can work for myself and I could do whatever I want to. Um, I feel so much freer, and it's been liberating. I'm much happier. I'm
Uh-huh.
more self-fulfilled, and so all three of those things work together, um, to create a more
So
complete picture of who I am, and the joy that I'm getting from life right now.
That's so poetic. That's so beautiful. And like you have mentioned, there is so much joy in the
Mm,
queer community.
mhm,
It's beautiful to witness when someone is living their authentic truth. It's taught me so much about me living. Am I really living authentically? Right? This journey. That's why I wrote a book about it, because it has transformed me. My book is called Transparency: How I
mhm.
Learned to See Through My Journey as a Parent of a Transgender Kiddo. Because in the process of truly learning to see my child, kiddo, for who they are, um, I realized there were things that I were seeing that I couldn't unsee, and I was evolving in the way that I viewed the world. And I learned to see hearts. I learned to see souls, and it was really stark how much I realized we used external cues, external things, external definitions to make sense of our world, and often sum people up. And that's a shame, because we miss seeing people in their hearts. We miss out on truly seeing them. So yes, that queer joy is real, and being able to witness it it's a gift. It's a blessing. So my podcast is named Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt. Growing up, that was a term I heard a lot. Certainty was prized and praised. To know something and say that you know it beyond the shadow of a doubt was a common thing that I heard. And I found at the beginning of this journey, it took me a while to realize I was struggling to lean into the questions and the doubts that were coming up because of the shame and the guilt that I felt, and what I was making it mean as of me as a person, of a person of faith. And I've learned that doubt is actually a catalyst for growth. Doubt and faith are two sides of the same coin. The opposite of faith is not certainty. So, my last question is, what does it mean to you to live beyond the shadow of doubt?
Mm, I think, I'll tie it back to what I was saying about feeling that doubt initially about, like, gosh, does my kid really know who they are? Is it real? I don't know. And that doubt is okay. So, and living beyond that shadow of doubt means seeing your kid for who
Uh,
believing them when they tell you who they are. And it really is faith in not necessarily religious faith, but kind of like stepping out on a limb kind of
yeah,
faith. Like, well,
yeah,
okay, here we
that's
are.
so true. That's such a
Yeah,
great point, right?
let's go. And so
Yes,
I think that's something that, like, I tell the parents that I work with, that it's hard, and you have to trust your kid when they tell you
yeah,
who they are, and they know who they are, and it's
exactly.
hard. I think that doubt maybe comes from so many places, maybe from what we're hearing in the news, or
Mhm.
what spiritual leaders are saying, or politicians, or whatever, or what inside, if we're not experiencing that, like, if we're not transgender. Like, I know I will never understand what my kids are going through, or what it's like being transgender, because I'm not. So
Oh,
I have to put that doubt
yeah.
aside, that shadow, and believe them, and that takes that faith.
That's so good. That's the essence of faith, right? Is to believe in things that maybe you don't see or don't
Mhm.
fully
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
and that's a choice.
Mhm.
So, any final thoughts that you would like to leave with our listeners?
See,
And if
I
not, that's
guess,
totally fine.
yeah. Oh, we've talked about such amazing things. Well, here is what a thought, that I'll let your listeners in on something. That when we had initially talked about the podcast, I was saying, well, I don't really do my work through the lens of my faith or
Hmm.
or through Christianity. And I know people who do, and that is their ministry, their calling, their mission, and that's super cool that they do that. And so I was hesitant about what am I going to say? I don't know. And I love the way that our conversation has turned out, and
Good.
you've taught me things about myself and really helped me self-reflect. And so I think that everybody can have that kind of journey again, really examining um, what you believe, and when you have that loss of expectations, however it is, maybe it's your kid, maybe it's the job you thought you were going to have, or the partner you thought you were going to have, or whatever it is, how you thought your life was going to turn out. uh, it really having to look at, well, why did I have those expectations? And taking those, maybe some values that have stuck with you through the years, and then, like you said, kind of letting go of the ones that are not serving you anymore, and then moving forward into, well, that stepping out on a limb, and that um, taking that faith, and um, finding, well, I don't want to say new expectations, because maybe that's not such a great thing. Finding the hope and celebration in new things that are happening in your life.
That
So
is
thank you
amazing.
for this gift of
Well, thank you for
introspection.
sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
That is much appreciated. And
yeah.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
It's been
I
great.
will make sure to leave all of the ways to contact you in the show notes, your
Wonderful.
website, your social media handles, and all of that.
Right?
Would love to share your work with more
Thank
folks.
you. Thanks.
So I like to throw out just a few questions to get to know you a little bit better at the end. This is for our listeners to get to know you. And seriously, just looking for 1 to 2 word answers. Just
Okay.
going to shoot them out.
All right.
So tell us your favorite book, or if that's too hard to narrow down, a favorite
Mhm.
book.
Okay. I would have to say The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've read it, I think, like 4 times. I just started it again last night. It's just a sweet, wonderful story about outcasts who are super special.
Okay.
Mhm.
There's another to put on your book list. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Or would you describe yourself as either or neither?
Extrovert. I would
Extrovert.
say definitely extrovert. It takes me sometimes to, like, get out of the house, but when I do, I draw energy from other people.
And are you a night owl or a morning lark?
Morning lark, even though sometimes I wish I weren't.
You just naturally wake up early.
I
That
know.
has never been me.
Yeah.
Although I wish sometimes it was. Who is your favorite artist?
Okay, I'll have to say this artist that I follow on Instagram. It's a local, like, street artist person. And I think they go by the name. I'm trying to even think how to pronounce it. I think it's Ooey. It's like OOWWEE or something funny
Okay,
like that.
cool.
I'll have to give it to you. Maybe you could link it or something.
Okay, I will.
Um, and they do just amazing, or he does amazing, colorful, beautiful paintings, and sells them on, like, street corners. And I keep trying to find him, and I miss him wherever he is. So
Oh,
one day
no.
I will find him and get one of his paintings.
That's great. That's great.
Mhm.
Do you have a celebrity crush? And if you don't, that's fine too.
Oh, Pedro Pascal. Ooh. Oh, be
I think there's a lot of
still.
moms of transgender kiddos who are loving Pedro right
Well,
now
yeah. Do you know,
because his sister is trans. Yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah. That's
yeah, I've
great.
heard the term pedrosexual, that everybody can get behind loving Pedro Pascal,
Okay, that's
no
hilarious.
matter
I love
your
that.
orientation.
That's hilarious. That's great. Pedro sex. Do you do still or carbonated water or diet soda or some other fun beverage instead?
Probably, flavored sparkling water.
I love that too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love liquid death. Have you ever tried that? Oh, it's so
Ooh,
good.
Oh, I usually do like
The names are what I
whatever.
love the most. Like, um, mango chainsaw.
I'll have to check those out. I usually get whatever, like the Target brand of whatever
Oh,
flavor. I'll
anyway,
look those up.
yeah, they're memorable. And
Yeah.
then, finally, the furthest place you've traveled.
Probably Hungary. I know that's kind of random. My high school choir went there one summer
That's
and we spent a
fabulous.
week there, which was really weird and random. Not weird, I should say unusual, uncommon. Um, but it was beautiful. It was an incredible experience.
I love that.
Mhm.
Well, this has been so amazing, Mandy. I'm so grateful to get to know you a little bit better, and even more grateful that you've been able to share your journey, your story, and all of the insight, the wisdom, the love that you have cultivated along the way that you are now bringing to others who are navigating similar waters as you. And I'm so grateful our paths have crossed.
Me too. Thank you so much for this time
Yeah,
and thank you for having me on.
it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan.
Writer, teacher, author, Mormon scholar, and founder of Dialogue Journal, Eugene England said, "My faith encourages my curiosity and awe. It thrusts me out into relationship with all creation and encourages me to enter into dialogue." As a proud member of the Dialogue Podcast Network, my hope is that Living Beyond the Shadow of Doubt podcast is an extension of that vision. Hopeful Spaces is a Dallas Hope Charities component of Hopeful Discussions, sponsored by Mercedes-Benz Financial Services USA. It's a free monthly parent, ally, or caregiver support group facilitated by Megan Skidmore Coaching. Email chc@dallashopecharities.org for more info. Visit meganskidmorecoaching.com to find this podcast and additional free resources, including the link for a complimentary coaching session. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram for more, or to send me a DM. Help the podcast grow. Please follow, review, and share with a friend.